be uh, wow. Hey, we have arrived.
We
We
have
have
arrived.
we have
We are
arrived.
here.
We are here. We have
Yes,
our
we
own
are.
in
Y'all
and
all
every
right out there?
huh?
I'm asking, are the people all right?
No, right? Um, we this is the first time it's just gonna be us,
This is
right?
first time
Just
it's
just
me.
us and so I must admit I'm a little excited about it because I think we've got a chance to really kind of dig deep. So we want everybody to share. Uh,
Please.
we, we we are on Facebook Live. We are on YouTube. So let
Please.
everybody know that we're on. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat. Right now, invite people to come on because we promise you tonight that nightcap is going to be crazy. So, ma'am, what's going on? How are you?
Oh man, I am great. I guess better than great. It's a
Okay.
lot happening that I believe God is up to something. As you posted earlier, for everybody that commented on that post, it was right on time. God is definitely up to something.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
really is, and it's kind of strange
Mm.
because with all of the guests that we've had and all of the people that we've involved and engaged in this tonight we really kind of coming out of this election. Well, the election is still going on. Out of this campaign season, we really wanted to just kind of have a let's just talk time. And so as you can see, my name tonight is What a Year. Man, what a year. What a
What
year.
year?
What a year.
Wow.
What kind of year has this been for you?
To be very honest, and excuse me, guys, I was just sharing this as well. This year has been one of the scariest years of my life in terms of uncertainty, in terms of not really, well, the uncertainty part has really been the most stressful. And work, man, when COVID hit, as a healthcare professional, as a leading healthcare professional, I didn't know what I signed up for when I took the oath years ago to serve and to protect the people of this world. And to the demand to work in a pandemic has really strengthened my faith, my endurance, because I really thought I wasn't going to. I really thought at one point I was going to quit. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It is really exposed who I am and what I'm capable of in a moment when it feels like everything is about to shut down. That's out of my control. Everything that I cannot control is literally about to shut down, and I can't control it. So,
I guess one of the more important questions is before this, did you see yourself as not a control freak, but before this, did you see yourself as someone who took pride in being in charge, being in control?
So the crazy part about that is I just had a conversation with one of my good friends, and I was telling her, I said, man, I think I'm a control freak because I
Wow.
love to be able to um control the narrative and have an idea, about 75% idea of what the outcome of the situation is going to be. And with COVID, you have no way of knowing what's going to happen, what turn is coming, what's coming up 2 miles away. You're literally just you're literally just riding this ride, hoping for the best, trying to make sure you're making sound decisions and great turns along this journey that does not land you in a situation that's worse off.
It's interesting because I think as I've walked through this, um, as a pastor, and of course as a husband and a father and a grandfather, as a friend, as
Wow.
a son,
Wow.
for all of the hats that I've worn or I'm wearing, it's been really interesting watching all of the dynamics play themselves against each other, and sometimes play on the same team.
Absolutely.
Um, I've been excited about tonight because I think for everyone watching us, and we want to again encourage everybody to share and to invite and to become a part of Nightcap, to become a part of the Nightcap community or the Nightcap family. Um, I really thought about tonight as an opportunity for you and I to just kind of talk about the year, and maybe if there are some comments or some questions or maybe even some insights, we want you to definitely jump
Please.
on and be a part of what we're doing and where we are. Um, how what have you done in this season, in this pandemic? What have you added to your life? What have
Wow.
you had taken away? What are you doing in this season that
Yeah.
really makes it productive despite all of the challenges?
One of the things that I decided to do when the pandemic happened, not that I wasn't doing it already, but I really wanted to beef up my spiritual time with God, like reading more. And although I read often, one of the things that I've done that really benefited me spiritually, so I'm going to start there, is engaging more in my word. We have more than I have been. I want to say I've actually been studying and putting myself in position to gain the knowledge that I need to kind of help me stay calm and centered. And then I decided that regardless of the pandemic, I'm going to remain a generous sower. So I made that a priority for me, because what I understand is when you sow in inconvenient moments, and you stay consistent, that eventually, when God see fit, you're gonna reap the harvest. All those seeds you put in the ground, you're gonna get them. God is gonna remember you. And then I decided that, you know what? It's time to add to my life with everything that's happened. And although it's been a season of loss, it's been a season of significant gain for some of us. Some people have become millionaires in the pandemic. Some
Oh,
people have launched businesses and been very successful in the pandemic. So one of the things that I decided to do was build a home. Interest rates are low. um it's prime time for anyone that's in a position to invest in real estate, and you have it. It's the best time to do it right now. And it may seem crazy, but it was a decision that, God said, it's time to do it. And then he started adding people to my life and relationships, where at first I felt lonely and fearful and uncertain. And then God started providing clarity and direction and focus in my life throughout a season where everything is outside of me is in turmoil. He gave me a sense of peace that I don't even understand it. So I hope that answered your question.
no. I mean, and it's funny. I remember very man. I went sometime this summer when because I mean you're in charge of the young
Right.
adult ministry. You are the young adult leader, and I remember when we made a decision that we were going to do this Zoom Bible study.
Right.
And I can remember your I can remember where you were. You were
Yeah.
exhausted. You were dealing with this whole thing of coming home to alone and all this kind of other stuff. And but it was but it's been amazing to watch how you have navigated through that process.
Wow.
Um in a year that's been really tough, and tough in terms of one, the pandemic, and then in terms of the isolation, in terms of the almost throwing out of everything that we've become accustomed to, and the
Yes.
shutting down of the things that we are used to. What have you found to be the most important lesson that God's taught you in this? I
Wow.
guess I'm sounding like the interviewer tonight, huh?
No, because I have a couple questions for you. I think that one of the things that the lesson that I've learned is God has equipped me with everything that I need to survive. And what do I mean by that? There are a lot of things that I was accustomed to prior to the pandemic. My life was a certain way. I had worked hard to get it structured a certain way. I had made the sacrifices to live a certain lifestyle. And at some point I started to believe that those things kind of defined and shaped who I was becoming. And then he shut all that down, which then forced me to take a look at myself, to discover that everything that I need is not outside of me. It's inside of me. And it's up to me to do the work, because God is not going to come and just put it in my face and say, "Here, Sherice, this is who you are." It's up to me to do the work. And so had I not had a strong spiritual foundation, had I not understood the importance of staying connected to my religious institution, my bishop, still working out the plan that God had for me, I believe that I would have fell victim to the things I could not access outside of me. But because I knew
Wow.
better,
Wow.
um, I was able to stay connected and stay centered. So that's what I learned. I learned that everything that I need, everything that I want, everything that I desire, that's not tangible. That peace, that the creativity, the ambition. God has given me just enough of what I need to be the person that He's designed me to be. I just got to believe it and tap into it. And I learned that in this pandemic. But Bishop, I have a
Yes.
question for you,
Yes.
because as many as the people that are on this live, many of you, Bishop he's our spiritual father, and he's put so much work into making sure we stay relevant as a ministry. The word of God is constantly put out there, that we have leading and cutting edge technology to give to our members and people that are not our members. What sacrifices have you made? And I know that sacrifice is such a broad term, but what sacrifices have you made to ensure that your members and the people of God are still able to receive and get the word?
Wow. Wow. Okay. Now I gotta sit up. Um, it's interesting. You should ask that. I think, one, before the pandemic, I traveled extensively, and traveling was a way of defining me. It would, it, because I preached all over the country, literally, and I preached for so many, like some preachers are only within Pentecostal circles, and some are only within traditional mainline church circles, and some are within particular denominations. I was literally everywhere. You you could find me preaching for the United Holy Church convocation, and then preaching for First Baptist Church, and then preaching for the AME Church, and so doing stuff for Church of God in Christ. So I was so diverse, and then the pandemic hit,
Wow.
and my entire schedule shut down, and I found myself sitting in the same chair every day for months. And so I think the first thing that I had to do, and I thank God I did it early, I just accepted that was my assignment now.
Wow.
I accepted, it goes back to what you said, oftentimes we celebrate what we control.
Mm-hmm.
And then we discover that we never really controlled it. And so what happened was, the pandemic forced me to become a man who now had to deal with all that I had been defining myself as.
Wow.
And so ever since like the second, third week in March, ever since like March 20th or something, I have gone to bed in the same bed and woke up in the same bed for the last 8 months.
Wow.
And that's never happened to me in my entire life as an adult and in ministry. So literally, I think the sacrifice is I had to reconstruct how I understood value.
Mm.
And then as a pastor, I've had to understand that I have to be patient with people and tolerate people that I wouldn't normally be patient with or tolerate to the extent that I've had to.
Wow.
I want to protect my staff, my servants team. So I've had to be more patient in managing certain aspects of that relationship. I've had to be more patient in people's participation and people's giving and people's presence.
Wow.
And then as a husband, I've had to be conscious of what my wife needs me to be doing to protect the house. Because this is like total transparency. Sherice, when this thing first started, people might have thought that I was a Republican. I was a Trump Republican, right? I probably would have been the guy at the super spreader event. No mask, no nothing, right? Just go away. We all good. But my wife is the direct opposite. Mask, shield,
Gloves.
gloves, carry sanitizer in the purse, in the wallet, in the car. And so in order to have a functional marriage through this, I had to come more to her than she came to me.
Wow.
Because there were extenuating circumstances that demanded it. And so I think that when you talk about sacrifice, I think the sacrifice has never been doing the work, because the work is what drives me. I love the work. Like I'm 7 days a week. I work 7 days a week.
Absolutely.
I work 7 days a week.
7 days, y'all. 7 days.
Literally 7 days a week. I mean, it's nothing for St. Paul to get 2 calls from me on a Saturday through one call. I get on the seniors call at 5:00 on Saturday evening, 5:30. It's nothing for me to be writing and reading and working and yet, it's such a long answer. And yet I think that in the end, God has given me a renewed sense of value, because I'm intrigued by people who are not motivated to be great in this.
Wow.
I'm I'm intrigued by people who have to be given instructions to operate at your highest level. Wow. This is the perfect season to be creative, because the space exists to be creative, you know? And so I think the sacrifice has been me being open to reconstruct my life so I can courageously see what God has beyond the pandemic while he is shaping me in it.
So that's amazing that you said that, because so y'all, I've been a member of St. Paul
Forever.
forever.
And
And I've
I'm trying to keep
literally
you for much longer, but anyway, we'll talk about that another time. Okay.
I've literally seen, have you ever, it's like watching your parent transition through life, right? And I've seen the highs and the lows of my bishop. And I say my bishop in a possessive form because he means so much to me, and I know he's all of our bishop that's watching. So y'all don't send me no inbox here.
I'm
But
yours tonight. Okay, go ahead.
yes, and this has been a season where I have seen you be so productive, above, you're a cut above the rest of what I've seen other pastors, that like the bare minimum is being done with them, but there's so much that you've done and you've birthed in a matter of 7, 6, 8 months. We're talking about a seminary school. We're talking about books. We're talking about connections. I remember when we first started this thing, we were doing prayer every day at 12 noon, and we had someone new come on every day at 12 noon. You were so dedicated to keeping us encouraged, connected, and clear that God was still in control. And so I sit here, it's amazing as a student of John. Technically, I'm a student of Bishop John Guns, and being a daughter, to watch you pour your all, even to the point of exhaustion, and even to the point of emotion, to know that you really do care. So tell, and I know it's kind of you, I don't think it's really selling yourself, but y'all, this man has done so much in a small amount of time that I don't believe he would have been able to do if the church was open, because he would have had to worry about so much traveling, the saints, operations, and the Lord shut it down to get all this stuff out of him. Tell, like,
I first of all, I can't stand you right now. I can't. I mean, in a good way, because when all of this shut down, and I became cognizant that I wasn't going back into Easter Sunday morning, because I, like most pastors, was going to have this triumphant re-entry on Easter Sunday. We were going to all go back, rah, rah, rah.
I remember.
I know you remember. You're on the board, and we were going back, and we were going to, oh man, it was going to be wonderful. And Jesus was going to be raised from the dead again. And I'm sitting at home on Easter. And it's like God said, okay, so are you going to watch, or are you going to be a part of this?
Wow.
And so immediately, the Lord began to deal with me about doing things like, early on, like when all of this shut down, I was only going to do 14 days as kind of symbolic of the quarantine, right? Number. And then we ended up doing 43 days of straight prayer. And you're right, a different person every, it was only 2 or 3 people who did it more than once. And one of them was my wife. And so I found myself leading us through prayer every day. And what I discovered was, when we got to the 14th day, when I was ready to exit, wow, great accomplishment. One of the partners, Gina Clark, said, this is getting me through this time. And just one person's voice made me continue it.
Wow.
And then, seminary on Sunday, where every Sunday for 9 weeks, we brought on, Jerry Carter and Bill Curtis and Jamal Bryant and Kim Credit and Frank Thomas and Gina Stewart and Rudy McKissick and my brother and all these people. We brought them on, Greg Howard, and they taught about preaching from 3 to 4. And because my attitude was nobody's doing anything. And so we ended up creating, then out of that was Birth Seminary on Sunday that now has over 100 men and women all over the country that are registered for the first semester. And I'm commercial, and there's still slots open for the second semester, right? And so so God began to do, God began to show me. And then our servants team, we made a commitment. We were going to stay true to everything that we committed to do, in December of last year before we knew anything about a pandemic. But the thing that I think has been so amazing for me personally, and I want to say this, is that the thing that's been so amazing, Sherice, is that God didn't give me permission to use this as a vacation.
Wow.
He gave me the responsibility of fathering, of creatively modeling, and of effectively communicating what he was doing in the middle of this pandemic and what the church should be doing to engage its partners, and what me as a spiritual father to KFI, and I see one of my sons up here, to me as a spiritual father, and to me as a husband, what my responsibility was. Pastor G and I hosted Your Marriage Matters.
Yes.
In May. I mean, it's so much that we stayed true to. We hosted Your Marriage Matters for a weekend virtual conference, and we had like 40 couples. And so somewhere in the middle of all of this, God didn't let me find excuses. And so I've been almost offended when I've had to chase people's passion down. Because at some point, you've got to be hungry for greatness. And when you become hungry for greatness, I can remember a conversation that I had with our online connection pastor, Elder Ray Routson, who has really been one of the best people in this pandemic for me, because it's not just what he does in terms of online work with us, but just the fact that I could have conversations. And I can remember Easter Sunday night, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm talking to Ray, and Ray says to me, "Bishop, you are called to pastor others in this pandemic."
Mm-hmm.
And I begin to understand that oftentimes, Sherice, we're not listening to anybody else because we think God is going to only talk through himself.
Wow.
But if you pay attention to all the people that are outside of you, I mean, like my wife and my children and you and servants team and my friends, to all the people that God has used to talk me into me.
Mm.
It's been amazing. So yeah.
That's good.
Wow.
One of the things that I read was that a lot of pastors were affected by the pandemic because it was like a blow to their ego, because they didn't have people in the church, the rah, the emotion. So it was hard for them to give or to still preach and teach the way that they normally did, because I guess they discovered that it was all based on emotion, but it never changed with you.
No, I've actually enjoyed. I've enjoyed the distance.
Mm.
It's made my content more important than my giftedness.
That's good.
I'm a thinker by nature. Everything about my life is about thinking. I'm a thinker. And so the absence of people has forced me to work harder at the content.
Mm.
And so, because in this season, and it's still this season, content is king. Content is king. And if you don't develop content, then when this is over, you're going to have nothing to show God that you offered in this season.
Wow.
Content is king. And I've discovered so much a good example, Nightcap. Look at us. Right. Nightcap doesn't happen without the pandemic.
Wow.
This doesn't, and And so here's what's crazy. How many spiritual babies have been birthed in the tension and the pain of the pandemic? How much has God produced in the pandemic that would have never have been created if we had not? How many sermons were preached differently than if we weren't in the pandemic? I asked my wife a tough question today. I asked her, if the pandemic didn't exist, would Donald Trump have won the election? And as painful as this whole season has been, and as difficult as it's been, and all the people that that we've lost, whether it's because of COVID or just in the context of this, for all of the disruption, glory to God, for everything that has gone wrong, the bigger question has to be asked, but what has gone right?
Wow.
What has gone right? Not, and what has gone right? What has gone right? What is, and it's funny because I think tonight, you and I wanted to just be us because we, we're in the midst of this waiting for 6 states to report. So that it quotes the nightmare, whatever, however some perceive it. Some have not perceived it as the nightmare. Some have perceived it as the best season of their life. But for some of us, it's been just hurt in a horrific time in terms of where this country is. But so here we are sitting around waiting for at least one more state to go blue, so we can all go, yay, it's over, right? But it's interesting. If God doesn't let it go blue,
wow,
will we be so angry that we will shut down our effectiveness? Or will we see this still as a season of opportunity?
Wow.
Yeah. What do you gauge as the atmosphere for millennials in this season?
Wow. I think that so it's kind of like a fork in the road, right? So at one point, there was a bunch of things. There's this, so I've been in Atlanta, and there's this place called Spaghetti Junction. And when you hit this area, the roads literally go all kind of which way, every direction. You can go north, south, east, west, whatever. And at one point prior to the pandemic, that's where millennials were, right? We were going north, south, east, west, kind of whichever the way the wind kind of blew us. And then at some point, the junction started getting more narrow, and it became a straight path where you can only go to the left or to the right when the pandemic hit, right? And I think that there's a split in the road. And so it's literally 2 types of millennials. You have millennials that are thriving, that are determined to make it out. And then you have millennials that have shut down, don't have any sense of direction, disconnected, not engaged. And so it has split. And so it has defined and categorized the type of person and the type of millennials that we have. There's a lot of tension right now. There's a lot of, I am not my ancestor, so you're not going to treat me or talk to me the way that you did them. The blinders that some of us had on us about racism has now been removed. And so millennials are angry. Millennials are antsy. Millennials are in a state of anticipation of, when are we coming out so I can continue my life? So those are the ones that kind of they veered off to the wrong way because they're waiting. And then there are those of us that's like, you know what? I'm not waiting in this season. This is a moment. This is time for movement. This is time to invest. This is time to grow. This is time to build. And so there are just 2 types. And I think you just got to define who you're going to be. And if you find yourself on the wrong end of this road, it's still not too late to, circle back around to get on the right path. But the guidance is what's needed. And I think as a millennial, I can speak for myself. I'm grateful that I have people in my life that love and care for me, that I can reach out to get guidance. Do you know how many millennials don't have that? They're
I
just
know.
here.
And,
Just
and,
trying
and
to
it's and
figure
it's
it out.
interesting. It's interesting. As you were talking, I think that one of the challenges that a lot of us have and have had in this pandemic, and now we find ourselves in caught in the clutches of the question of when will this be over? When we move
Yes.
forward? I think that one of the challenges is that humility has to become a trait you admire and desire, and
Mm,
not one that you perceive as weakness.
wow.
It's always weird for me to talk to professional millennials or professional young adults, and there's this kind of swag, and I mean, I'm so out of touch with the words that could be used, but
It's
but there's
swag.
this confidence. Yeah, I know it's crazy.
It's swag.
Uh, there's this confidence, right? But sometimes when I look at them and their confidence, I really see their insecurity,
Wow.
because confidence isn't how you talk and how direct you are at people. Confidence is your ability to execute the will of God without negotiating your authenticity, without needing to damage or to prove yourself to anybody who may only be a season.
Wow.
So for me, the thing that's been so amazing in
Mm,
this season is that for those who have the spirit of healthy humility, they are going to thrive because they will be a student while being a leader.
wow.
And so for me, so the thing that I've loved the thing that I love about the way my mom raised me is that my mom taught me to be a person of humility. And because she taught me to be a person of humility, the thing that's so amazing is people who operate in humility don't mind saying I'm sorry, or I missed it, or I didn't do it right, or I could have done it better. They don't defend themselves. They accept responsibility. And then here comes the amazing thing. And then they ask the question that they wouldn't normally ask. They ask, can you help me?
Wow.
Can you make me better?
Wow.
I'm willing to grow. Help me to become better. And it's in that place where I think people succeed, because ultimately, favor is the result of humility. Favor is not the result of gift, it's the result of humility. And when a person recognizes this and lives it out, then Dr. Sherice, it becomes an amazing thing to watch. You know, and and that's been my pandemic. My pandemic has been asking people to help me. My pandemic has been seeking counsel. My pandemic has been working with my wife to make it work. And my pandemic has been learning tough lessons, and then not rejecting the lesson because it made me uncomfortable, but
Wow.
embracing the lesson because it ultimately liberated me. Um, yeah, wow.
That's crazy. So at work, I remember, I'm gonna a quick story time. Um, there was this
Now
lady
this
at
half your show. You can talk as much as you want.
she she's an excellent pharmacist. And I remember I was when I started out, I was an intern, and I had this arrogance about me. And I know I did, because I had accomplished so much in pharmacy school. I said, man, working at this type of working as this type of pharmacist is beneath me. This is my mindset. So I remember going to work, and I would do the bare minimum. And she will always have feedback for me. And so it started aggravating me. So I find myself, every time she gave me feedback, I would give pushback. And every time she gave me feedback, she told me I need to do something better, I would have an excuse as to why I did it at the level that I did it, with no intention to listen or improve on anything. And one day, um, I was riding the car. Something had happened, and I mean, I'm bawling out. I'm crying. I'm just like, Lord, I don't have any help. There's nobody out here guiding me through this process. And clear as day, I hear God say, I put someone in your life, but you are rejecting the growth.
Wow.
And so when I got to work that day, I'll never forget. I did what I had to do. I immediately, there was an improvement in my productivity at work. And when the day ended, I went to her and I said, listen, I said, I have to apologize because I asked God for something and I didn't have the vision and the clarity to recognize that he had put it in front of me. And this lady had never, she said to me, she said, wow, she said, no student has ever come to me and say that. And she began to invest in me. And because of that moment of God telling me to go apologize, get my attitude together, humble myself, she brought my name up in rooms that I was not in, which opened the door for me to then move into a staff position that increased my income $30,000, because I recognized that my help was there. I asked God for something and God brought it back to me. Listen, it didn't come the way that you thought it was going to come from the people you thought it was going to come from. But I gave you what you needed. Now I need you to humble yourself, and it's okay to say, hey, I need help. So and then I even went so far as to give her permission to help me navigate through this. So when you see me slipping on my pimping, correct me. I'm open for the rebuke. I'm open for the reproach. I'm open for all of those things, because I now understand that God placed you in my life not to harm me, but to make me better. But I had to realize that I needed help. And I think that's where millennials, my generation, we think we know so much, that we can't be taught, that we can't, all of those teachings are outdated. There's a new way of doing it, and it's not necessarily the case. There's still unspoken rules, and there's still rules that you have to follow as a millennial. Other than that, you'll end up losing opportunities that God has opened for you. You'll miss them because
I'm sorry. I'm sitting here chopping at the bit. I'm going crazy. Let me tell you why. You said so much till first of all, I'm crazy proud of you as your spiritual father. I'm just blown away. But God Almighty, most of us do just enough to not be recognized.
Yes.
I really want us to hear what I just said. Most of us do just enough to not be recognized. We do just enough to be under the radar, because we don't want anybody to say anything to us. And when people do say anything to us, or they point things out, then we go into the defensive mode, like you were saying. People who give the bare minimum will be the first ones that folk will want to exit.
Wow.
Because when you give just enough to stay on the payroll, or you give just enough to stay in a relationship, or you give just enough to stay married, or just enough to be a parent, when you give just enough to be a friend, when you give just enough, when you give the bare minimum in whatever it is that you're created to do, then eventually you become irrelevant, because the people who give their best, who give their optimal. Listen, the one thing that, and you said it early, and this is my 30 seconds of arrogance. I ain't the best preacher. I ain't the smartest preacher, but I work hard.
Yes.
I work hard. I give so much time to this until when my daughter Deja served for a week as my assistant. She said, "Daddy, you never stop." I literally don't. The only time I stop is when I sit here with my phone on my device and I play slots on the phone or I pay hearts, right? But I'm always, but even when I'm doing that, I'm thinking today I taught my third class session because in the pandemic, I've become an adjunct professor for the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology, Virginia Union. I'm now an adjunct professor in preaching at Virginia Union, right? In the pandemic, I have figured out that I'm supposed to help preachers be better preachers. And so reality is for me is that the person who doesn't give the maximum effort, but here's the other piece. You need to be in relationships with people that don't make you feel guilty for being great at something.
Absolutely.
Because if you're with people who make you feel bad for being great at something, but they benefit from you doing it, then that means that they are a pariah. Wow. I am honored to be married to a woman who doesn't mind the grind. Who doesn't tell me, okay, this is my time. No, sometimes you got to be able to trust that the person you with, they're grinding. And if they're grinding and you're benefiting, then you need to keep pushing them to the grind because wisdom is going to bring them back to you.
Wow, that's good.
Wisdom is going to bring them back to you. They're going to know when it's your time. They're going to know. And so wisdom brings them back to you. Wisdom. And then what God does is when you're walking in success, they're going to get the benefit of your success.
Absolutely.
And so you said so much because here you are walking into what you thought was an entry-level position when it was really the training ground for promotion.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be promoted, but nobody wants to pay the price of the student.
Wow.
The student always ends up being the teacher. Every student, every teacher has had to be a student.
Wow.
Why are we such poor students? But we want to be great teachers. There is something amazing about watching what God's done with you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been fun for Pastor G and I to watch. Yeah, it's been fun. Man, we got 10 minutes. I almost just want to do us again next week, but we're bringing Pastor G on next week.
We need this relationship advice. I need this relationship advice.
Yes, you're gonna need it from your first lady. How do we stay focused in this season?
Wow.
And I'm not even just talking about because of the stress of the pandemic, but how do we stay focused in terms of the good things that may be happening? How do we not become intoxicated with it?
Pastor G preached a sermon, I want to say last year, it was called Laser Focus.
Yeah, that was a good one, wasn't
it? Good? It was good because
that was a good one. She's actually a very good preacher. She doesn't give herself enough credit.
She is. She's very
strategic. She is.
Yes, she is. And so she gave us this outline on staying focused. So I'm going to steal some of that and then add a little. But I think that one of the things that we have to remember in this season in order for us to stay focused on the good things, right, is it's going to require discipline.
Good word.
Of your mind.
Good word.
Because it is very easy to look at the enemy is very crafty in making sure we only see what we don't have and what we need. But we do a very poor job of disciplining our minds to see what we have and what God has provided.
Oh my God.
And so I just think that it's going to require you to discipline your mind to constantly focus, stay laser. You have to concentrate on seeing everything that you have that's good. You're not, because it's so many distractions. Everything that we do is a distraction. There are people right now that's watching this, watching the debate, talking to the kids. So everything that you do, you're never 100% in. But in order for you to stay focused on what's good, you have to give 100% to the discipline of your mind to say, God, I know it looks bad and I know it looks terrible, but I believe in the promise. And you got to stay focused on that, because if you do not, you will fall into the pressures of what your lying eyes tell you, because your eyes are deceptive. They will lie.
Oh my God! You know what? I promise you, next time I see you, you working this weekend, so you probably won't make the drive up. But if you make the drive up, I'm gonna throw my mask at you. Even if you don't, I'm gonna find you and throw my mask at you. I got like 20 of them, so I can throw one at you. Let me tell you what's so amazing about what you just said. My ability to manage this season has not been because I've stayed busy. It's been because I refuse to let this disruption of depression based upon the way my life has been reconstructed direct me away from the purpose of God.
Wow.
And what I mean by disruption of depression is I literally mean that you allow the anxiety of where God has you to drive you into a dark place where you're only praying for exit and you're not praying for productivity.
Wow.
You're not praying for productivity, you're praying for exit, because you think exit is the affirmation of God's love for you, when sometimes the best thing God can do is leave you there. Because in leaving you there, he's requiring you to be mature.
My Lord.
And maturity is where the discipline of the mind exists, because the mature person knows how to look at everything that's happening around them and stay keen to the will of God. Let me tell you what's so amazing. Years ago, I used to love watching the Boston Celtics, Larry Bird. I don't know why I like that white dude, but I loved that. I loved him. And I mean, that was the era when they were playing against the Lakers and the Magic Johnson and the Lakers and all them guys, right? But the thing I loved about Larry Bird was Larry Bird said he loved playing in hostile environments.
Wow.
And they asked, why do you love hostile environments? He said, because the distraction made me focus.
Wow.
Ooh, God Almighty. If you know who you are, you go into every situation knowing that you're a winner.
Wow.
And so the distractions make you focus. All the stuff that should get in the way makes you focus. The distraction of social media makes me focus on my wife. The distraction of all of this stuff out here, all these other folk doing their thing, makes me stay clear on what I'm uniquely assigned to do as the pastor of St. Paul, as the founder and father of KFI, as the founder of Operation Save Our Sons, as the chair of Empowering Young Minds Learning Center. All of the things that I do, I am able to stay focused because the distractions are a part of what makes me focus.
Wow.
Most people are controlled by the distraction and not motivated to be focused because of the distraction. Okay, we got 6 minutes. We got about 4 or 5 minutes. So wow. we didn't even get to this election. Maybe because God didn't want us to be distracted by it.
Correct. Correct. I think God has a plan. You said it, he's up to something. And I think
something.
We don't
tell you what he said to me? Can I share this really quick? When I
Yes.
woke up this morning, and I get up and I do this prayer call for the church every day. And
Every day.
I heard the Lord say some things. But tonight, a guy by the name of Antonio Matthews called me. He's a pastor. He's now in Denver. And he called me and he said, man, tell me what God is saying to you. Explain to me what you hear God saying. And I said to him, here's what God said to me this morning, and what he's been saying to me all day, which has brought me to total calm. And then I'll throw it back to you. He said, the Lord said to me, the only way for me to heal you, I must expose you.
Wow.
He said, John, don't get mad at the fact that over 60 million people voted for Donald Trump. Celebrate the fact that now you know where the cancer is. And he said, so I'm going to put people in key positions now to deal with what's been exposed. We've been saying that, America has a race issue. Now we're so clear that not only do we have a race issue, we have a us issue.
Yes.
And so some of us need to shout that God did us a favor in the pandemic. He exposed us to us. The problem is you got to stop talking bad about what you've been exposed to. Because Here's reality. When you are exposed, now you get to fix it. And the greatest joy is watching yourself grow up.
Wow.
Okay, Sherice, go ahead. I'm done. We got 3 minutes. Oh my God.
Because I'm going to dare to say that, and everything that God exposes to you is not open for discussion, but for prayer.
There you go.
And it's important because if you discuss what God has exposed in your life to the wrong people, it can ultimately put you in a state of duress and it can kill you. So you have to be careful that some of those things that God is exposing to you that's going to bring forth the healing, it ain't open for discussion. Everybody ain't got to know. You got to you got to be in prayer.
Hold that thought, because here's the other thing. And you said something amazing. The other thing is, if you tell it to the wrong person, they may give you permission to keep it.
Dysfunction.
Dysfunctional. They may say, you know what? I'm going to protect your dysfunction, and I'm not going to call you out. I'm not going to demand you be better, because one, you can't handle the truth. And so you know what? And listen, and I love you so much, I don't want to aggravate you. So I'm just going to let you be bad at you, because I'm afraid to tell you the truth. Do you know Donald Trump would have won this election if he had listened to somebody in March?
Wow.
If he had listened in March, this country would have gotten through this in 90 days. But because he's not a good listener, he may be on his way out. The scariest thing is that great people pay attention.
That's good.
Unwise people keep missing exits.
Wow.
Okay. We got a minute.
We got a couple minutes.
We got a couple of minutes.
Bishop said something, y'all. I need y'all to catch this. Not only will the exposure allow people to give you permission to stay where you are, discussing what God has exposed to you will also allow those people that are toxic to keep you from climbing. So they don't want you to grow because they like you in your dysfunction. They feed off of you in dysfunction. Their ego is exaggerated of you being in dysfunction. So your growth is gonna expose their toxicity.
That's so good.
So I need you to stay where you are. I'm gonna minimize everything that you're saying and say, okay, girl, okay, dude, nah, I think you're great. I think you're overthinking. Is that really God? Is it ambition or is it spirit? All kinds of stuff. You got to check that. So when God is exposing you to bring about healing and to take you to the next level, you got to have enough wisdom and discernment to know, is this something worth talking about, or am I taking this to God in prayer?
Okay, so next week, Pastor G would be with us. And can it just be us three and we just keep this conversation going?
Yes.
Because I promise you, you have tapped into so much tonight, and I didn't have to be up here. I just could have listened to you all night tonight. You you go to Atlanta again in a couple of weeks. It is amazing how God is doing this. Hey, listen, everybody, this has been Nightcap. We are trying to get it to an hour because we believe syndication is coming.
Yeah.
And so, guys, it's been Nightcap with What a Year and Sherice, Dr. Sherice Nicole. We love you guys. We think you guys are amazing. Be blessed, and we will see you next week, 9:30 for Nightcap. Be blessed, everybody. Take care.